3 times a week does a lot for a lot of people. When you kind of get to using it, it can seem very, very simple. I've got a whole bunch of light. I get a few of the right wavelength. I shine it on my body and I get the benefits. It's not. There is a lot of stuff that's led up to this. We don't want to be driving LEDs at 100% power. So we overpower the LEDs. One of the things that I look out for in any bed is how many wavelengths they have. Cancer therapy, that the pain is way less, that they're able to eat and drink and swallow.
Today, I speak to Josh Gray from Thor Laser. Now, we go pretty deep into the world of red light therapy beds. And in particular, Josh shares why the NovoThor bed is rather unique and not like any other red light therapy bed on the market. He talks about how they get a perfect blend of light across the entire surface, meaning you're getting equal treatment across your body, which is important. He also talks about the quality control and testing that they do and how these beds are built for longevity and regular back-to-back use. Also, I asked Josh about why they only use 660 and 850 nanometers. And then finally, I used the NovoThor bed for the very first time. So be sure to hang around to see how that goes. Josh, we're standing here in front of probably one of the coolest products I've seen in the red light therapy space. The NovoThor, very expensive.
Yep.
Very incredible. I'm looking forward to using it after this. I wanted to use it before, but I thought if I come out of it feeling very sleepy, this conversation is not going to go very well. Tell me, how is this different to other red light therapy beds that we see on the market?
Yeah, sure. So there's a number of things that we feel that we do differently. One of the things that we really focus on is consistency in every aspect of the device. And there's a lot of different things that go into that. So power obviously is a big part of the conversation whenever you're talking about any red light therapy or photobiomodulated device. And power is an important part. So one of our approaches to power is, again, it is about consistency. It is about making sure that at every point of the bed, no matter where you are in it, you want to be receiving an effective dose. You want to be receiving the exact same amount of light, no matter where you are. So when we approach designing it, we look at the angle of emission of the LEDs. We look at the spaces between the LEDs. We even look at like how far away the emitting surface is. So we've got a diffusing panel. We looked at that and we took a whole bunch of these factors along with a whole bunch of other ones, like what's the hot spot? Like if you buy an LED, like there's a certain amount of area where you've got like a lot of light, and then when you get towards the edge of that, there's some fallout, right? So we arrange the LEDs in such a way that you get crossover. So where one beam ends, the next one crosses over, so you get a more consistent dose. We use the diffuser because the angle of the LEDs wasn't quite wide enough, and so we use a diffuser to make sure that gets scattered even more, to again make sure that at any point in the bed, you get the exact same amount of power. We also obviously looked at the power of the LEDs, and when it comes to the power of LEDs, we think of LEDs as a little bit like a car. You never want to be driving at the red line for long periods of time, right? You want to be driving a car. Cars generally have like a bit of a sweet spot where you'll find like they cruise really nicely and they feel really good. LEDs kind of have, it's not quite the same, but we don't want to be driving LEDs at 100% power. So we overpower the LEDs. We buy LEDs which are twice as powerful as they're required to be. And then we drop the power down 50%, because that way they are always delivering the exact right amount of power. So you can see, like, and these are just a few of the factors. We got other things that we kind of take into account, when it comes to like even the drivers and the boards and the way the electronics are done, like to make sure they're all receiving the same amount of power from the drivers. We took all of those things into account because it all adds up. Every single little bit of that adds up to a more consistent dose. Because what you don't want is to kind of have areas which are kind of over-treated, areas which are under-treated. You don't want like your leg to be getting less power than your head because the driver board there is weaker compared with, so like you take all those little bits and pieces, you keep adding them up, you end up with something very, very specific. And for us, we feel like this is what is required in order to make an effective red light therapy method.
I know James, the founder.
Yes.
James Cow.
Founder CEO.
Founder CEO, does everything. I know he's very particular with testing and the research he's involved with, but of course also the products as well. So yeah, why don't you share with the audience a little bit about what you're doing with these products, with the NovoThor when it comes to testing?
When it comes to testing, so each and every bed that we make goes through an extensive quality test when we build it. So we have what's called a Class DD test sort discard process. So what that means is that a lot of LEDs don't make the cut.
Right.
We don't take a lot of LEDs.
Really?
We have them pre-sorted for us to make sure that they meet certain specifications. So we only accept LEDs which meet certain specifications, and we reject a lot of LEDs which don't meet those specifications.
But I'll just pause you real quick there. It's quite interesting because a lot of people now, this is more consumer panels and that, are going straight to manufacturers in China and getting panels for a lot cheaper than some of these companies are selling them. But I always wondered, I'm like, what are you buying? You know, are you getting all the seconds, the rejects, right? And they're putting them into a panel and away you go, it's half the price. Like,
yeah. So
LEDs, you guys are testing and making sure everything's legit, right?
Absolutely. No, testing is a huge part of the process throughout, from inception all the way to final product. Like at every step of the way, we do a lot of testing, and it kind of goes, before we even went and built the first NovoThor, we've been heavily involved in the science and the research for a really long time.
Yeah.
We have been a part of these scientific conferences about research papers. We have been involved with an incredible amount of studies to help ensure that they're going to plan and execute a high quality study where they're going to actually see the results that are representative of the treatment that they did. Because it's very easy to get things wrong. There's a lot of different factors like therapy. When you kind of get to using it, can seem very, very simple. And you can think about it in a very simple way. I've got a whole bunch of light. I get a few of the right wavelength. I shine it on my body and I get the benefits. It's not. There is a lot of stuff that's led up to this, wavelengths, power, repeating a lot of testing in terms of the research to make sure that you're actually going to see benefits, because it's very easy to wander away from that and get into areas where it's questionable as to whether or not you're really going to be getting what you want.
So a typical session in here is 20 minutes?
So between 15 and 20 minutes. We recommend 15 for most people.
Yeah.
That's right for most people. Olympic athletes typically have done 15-minute treatments.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the sports teams in the NBA and NHL, etc., I think they all do 15 minutes as well. But obviously, if you're smaller, thinner, you can go down. If you're bigger, you may want to go up a little bit.
And have there been studies done using the NovoThor?
There have been, I think there are seven currently published clinical trials with the NovoThor. So one of the most recent studies has been on fibromyalgia, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's a really debilitating condition.
Yeah.
It's pain all over the body. It is extraordinarily bad for people's quality of life, because when you're in pain all the time, it's very difficult to enjoy anything.
Yeah, totally.
Actually, I was reading that the patients who took part in that study got to give their feedback, like their comments afterwards, and it was very emotional reading through the comments. There was someone, I don't know whether you want to put this in the profile,
We can cut it all later.
but there was someone who was considering end of life treatment, and they cancelled
Oh my God.
as a result of the course of treatments they got with the NovoThor. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
That is exactly the reason why we put so much effort, so much time and thought into our product, is because of the profound effect that it has on people's lives.
Yeah, and it's like lights. You know, you're not taking a supplement or a drug that has all these side effects, or, you know, it's crazy, right? Like, when you really stop and think about it. And so if someone's listening to this and they think, hey, I suffer from that condition, you know, I want to tap into this. Where do they go? What do they do? I like, straight up, these are very expensive, but you're not really selling them to the end user. Well, you mentioned before, there are some people, private people buying them, but mostly is at clinics, right?
We have a whole bunch of clinics all around the world.
Okay.
If you go to NovoThor.com, there's a button at the top that says locations, and you can just look at near where you are and see if there is a NovoThor near you.
Okay.
If you can't find the thing, you are actually welcome to email us. You can either just use the inquiry form, or you go to thorlaser.com/inquiry, and you can ask us where the closest treatment is, because you may not have a NovoThor near you, but we've got a lot of clinics all around the world using our handheld device.
Yes, right.
If you can't get to a NovoThor, handheld devices, they do fantastic stuff. You know, you probably want to consider one of those instead.
And so, what's a typical treatment protocol? Like, do people need to go every single day, once a week, once a month? Like, what if someone's just starting out? Like, what do you recommend?
It really depends on what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, if you have something extremely acute, then those like everyday things can really make a difference. I know that certainly, again, in the sports teams where they are highly likely to suffer an injury because they're really pushing their bodies to the limit, they do more often. A lot of them do it every day because they really see the benefit, right? Especially when you're training, like the likelihood of a tear, a strain, etc., really quite high.
Yeah, I know James as well is winning every day, isn't he?
Yeah.
Traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, whenever he can. But obviously, not everybody can do that. Nobody can afford that. 3 times a week does a lot for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But even just like once a week, like a lot of places, they will start out at 3 times a week and then drop you down to once a week to sort of like maintain where you're at. So once you've kind of like received a lot of benefits, once you've gotten better, got over the more acute stuff, or some of the chronic pain has kind of reduced, then they'll slow it down. They'll go to once a week, you know, and make something that works long term for them.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, can I ask 2 quick favors? Firstly, give me a thumbs up. Secondly, if you really like it and you want to see more videos like this, then hit the subscribe button. I should mention I've actually done a few interviews with the guys from Thor, including James Carroll, the founder and CEO. Check all of them out down below. Links are all down below. Otherwise, let's get back into this interview. So is this a medical device?
Yes.
Okay. And I know you've got the handheld devices as well.
Yep.
Again, medical devices. Do you have any plans to get into the more consumer market, you know, panels and wraps?
Panels are not in our future. We have, again, like I said earlier, we have certain specifications that we want to meet. We want to make sure that dose is really consistent. For us, one of the issues with panels is that there can be inconsistency because there's inconsistency in placement, in distance, etc. We want to make sure that if you buy one of our products, you get the benefits. So something like a panel, not in our future. Other stuff, I can't talk about future products. We've got some interesting stuff that we've worked on. We've got some interesting prototypes, but I really can't talk about that.
Okay, watch this space.
Yes, as always, watch this space.
You'll have to, if there is any gossip or rumors or leaks, you know, you'll have to send it through and I'll share it with everyone here.
We'll give you a little nod, one way or another. Yeah, maybe.
Have I missed anything? Is there anything else anything else that people should know when they're considering maybe buying a red light therapy bed or going to a clinic that has one?
Oh, we're going to need chairs. We're going to need to sit down. This is a lot of discussion. So earlier you did ask about testing. Now I got a little bit into one side of it. What I didn't get into is what we do for every bed. So one of the things that we do for every bed is we test in multiple spots. It's very common for people to take a light meter of some description and to plonk it down on a bed and be like, that's the power. And it may not be a representative sample. So when we test our beds, we have a grid that we use and we test a random section, a random number of places on that grid. So we'll take like 20 spots and we'll go, 20 random spots over the bed to make sure that every single place on the bed, you're getting the same treat. Another thing that we do is we test vertically as well. It's not just about what's on the surface of the device, obviously the top of the device, it's not touching the skin. And you want to make sure the top and the bottom are getting the same treatment. So we test, against the emitting surface of the device, and then do a few inches above, and then a few more inches, etc. in order to make sure that no matter where your limb is or your torso is, you're always getting that exact same treatment. Like I said, consistency is key. Making sure that you're getting the right dose everywhere, that is key for us. You asked about what you should be looking out for. That's a really tricky question to ask. I think one of the things that I'd look out for in any bed is how many wavelengths they have. It can be very easy to think that more is better, and it's an understandable way of thinking. But as with a lot of these things, there's a complexity there. When you add more wavelengths to a bed, you only have a certain amount of surface and you only have a certain amount of power. When you add more LEDs in, you start splitting up those different wavelengths,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
And if you think of each wavelength as essentially being like a medication,
Yes.
if you halve the dose of a medication, it's not an effect. You're diluting the effect. That's why we have two wavelengths. We have two wavelengths which there is a lot of evidence for as being effective. That's down to a number of factors, including what those wavelengths get absorbed by. So light obviously gets absorbed by a number of things. It gets absorbed by your skin, it gets absorbed by your blood, it gets absorbed by the melanin in your skin, etc., etc. Even the water will actually absorb a whole bunch of that light. And if your light is being absorbed by the water, you're not getting the benefit. You're essentially just heating water up, just a little bit. We want to make sure that as much light as possible gets into the cells.
Yes.
So we have a few wavelengths that we feel that there is a lot of evidence for being effective. And we use 2 of those in the bed and no more. Because that way, you're always getting the right dose with those wavelengths. And we're not having to split up where those different wavelengths are. So no matter where you are on the bed, you're getting the right wavelengths.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that I would think about.
Yeah. Continue. Sorry. Well, actually, I will interrupt real quick here. So a big thing is that consistency, especially because you are creating a device that's going into medical centers, right?
Yep.
It's consistent blend of light, consistent treatment intensities, power output.
Yep.
And I know you mentioned this earlier when I was talking to you, because you've dropped the driver, the LEDs, you're not running them at full throttle, full capacity. Long term, they're still going to be running as planned, whereas they can potentially get a bit volatile.
Yeah, where we designed these to go into pain clinics, into hospitals, etc. The longevity of the device and making sure that every single person, we can run these things day in, day out at full capacity with no breaks and always give the same treatment.
Yeah, well,
that's important. For the product lifespan, for people actually receiving the benefits, that's really key. So we've done a whole bunch of stuff, whole bunch of engineering around getting rid of any heat. We make sure that we have channels and heat sink in order to make sure we're getting the heat away from the LEDs to maintain that efficiency.
Yeah.
So they're always putting out the right amount of light.
I know you're not the scientist of the company, so this question may not be best for you, but are people playing around with longer durations or short, some serious athletes train 3-4 back-to-back sessions? Do you know anything like that? Or even playing around with trying to up the intensity? Is this something that you're experimenting with?
Are we experimenting with it? Yes, of course we're experimenting with it. Of course we've got a lot of thoughts around the different ways in which this treatment can be delivered, the different power densities that you can use. For us, where we're at the moment is we believe that this dose is the right dose for this modality. There are, of course, other schools of thought, other wavelengths that people like to use. As far as we're concerned, we think this is the best that the best way to deliver this treatment at the moment. If you're using lasers to do much higher power things, you're going to get slightly different effects. I think we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but here we are, we're focused on healing, on recovery, on getting the body better with the NovoThor. If you're more pain focused, you do want to go up. And again, really speak to James on this one. He's going to talk much better about this. But no, absolutely, we've explored it, and of course, we athletes are trying things out.
Yeah.
The way that really I would approach this is that when we deliver a product to the customer, we want to give them what is most consistent with the evidence, and where we're continually getting that good feedback of the effect that it's having on people's bodies. Yeah, exactly. Like really, that's what it comes down to. Like,
totally.
You want to hear, like, when we consistently get that feedback from people who are undergoing cancer therapy, that the pain is way less, that they're able to eat and drink and swallow. That's the feedback that you want. Like,
why would you change? Why would you? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
I mean, we always want to deliver whatever's best. Mm-hmm. So of course we're exploring other ways of delivering the different wavelength powers, etc. But as far as we can tell, we've nailed it.
And I suppose that's one. We'll finish with this. A lot of people associate your company, James Carroll, Thor, with the NovoThor, but you do have other products as well. Like, you do have those targeted, more powerful devices, which you mentioned earlier. If you can't find a clinic that has this, you may find a clinic with the smaller one. Yeah. So it's not like this company's all about full body, soak the body in light. You do understand how different problems require different tools, different treatments.
Absolutely. So we have a variety we have a desktop system which has a variety of probes which will give you slightly different treatments. One of the ones that we're most proud of is the LED Lollipop. Mm-hmm. It uses the exact same wavelengths that go in the NovoThor, except it goes in the mouth. And the primary reason we developed it was because there are cancer patients who have head and neck cancer, who undergo cancer therapy, and they develop a number of complications as a result of cancer therapy. Particularly oral mucositis is one that we talk about, yes. But we're generally talking about late effects and the kind of the general inflammation that happens in and around that region. We developed the LED Lollipop to help with that, and that is now in place in a lot of NHS hospitals around the UK. And again, the results are incredible, and the feedback that we continually get from people who are in the hospitals who are saying, like, the amount of time that people spend in the hospital goes down. Well, the amount of that people are eating goes up, and that is a huge deal. Yeah. Like, if you're malnutritioned as well as suffering from cancer therapy, like, you recover slower. Your quality of life is worse. So LED Lollipop, we're really proud of it. It's doing phenomenal stuff in that. We also have a number of LED clusters that we use to treat around the body for those more targeted treatments. If you have a muscle group that you want to treat, the LED clusters are fantastic for that. We do have some laser clusters, include the giant laser cluster. We also have a teeny tiny little one which does a really direct treatment called the trigger point laser for deactivating trigger points around the body for really getting that pain down quickly and really effectively.
Very, very cool. Josh, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Can I do a session sometime?
Absolutely. Whenever you want. Yeah. Come to our office and come. You're welcome to use this one here. We'll get you in one, no problem.
I'm gonna do it. And that is a wrap. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, yeah, I did a full 20-minute session on the NovoThor, and the first thing I noticed was that it was curved. For some reason, I had no idea they were curved. I'd used one other bed, the Mitre Red Light bed, and it was flat. I do like the curved feeling, like you just feel a little bit more cocooned in there. It was very relaxing, but I didn't fall asleep or didn't feel the urge to fall asleep like I typically experience when I'm using horizontal beds or panels in a horizontal setup. But it was very nice. It was not overpowering in terms of heat. There was a nice fan blowing some air, and I didn't feel like it was discomforting or stressful in the eyes or anything like that. It did, however, have that sudden off, which surprised me. I thought with a $100,000 machine that's going to lots of clinics, they would have built in a 5-10 second sort of taper, but it was a nice experience. And I do have to admit that I was rather energized for the rest of the day. I did this late in the afternoon on a Friday. I was jet lagged, and I was still doing interviews right up until about 8:30 or 9 p.m. at night. So whether it was just the coffee I was drinking or the red light therapy bed, I'm not too sure, but hey, I enjoyed it. So that was my take. Now I do recommend checking out this video up here. It is another interview I have done. Highly recommend it. You're going to get a lot of value from this video.